Hello and welcome to Book Splash today. This is the program set aside for book lovers and literary enthusiasts to hang out and revel in the beautiful world of books. Let's do so again today. I am Michael Olatunbosun and this is Book Splash on Splash FM 105.5 Ibadan. Today we discuss a collection of short stories. The book is titled Ruffled Butterflies, written by Ayotunde Mamudu and published in 2019 by Origami, an imprint of Paresia Publishers Limited. The author, Ayotunde Mamudu, holds both bachelor and master's degrees in English language from University of Jos. He is a member of the Chartered Institute of Human Capital Development of Nigeria and a recipient of the Vice Chancellor Scholar Scheme Awards. The book, Ruffled Butterflies, contains 13 short stories, and each story is a catalogue of the author's aggregation of human relationships and the little things that could make them either smooth or sour. In the story titled Toothpaste, we are introduced to the couple Kayode and Bisi Thomas. In the story, Bisi questions why a person should be judged by how he or she presses the toothpaste tube. In the story, we also read about how Kayode reports Bisi to his visiting parents and includes the allegation that she, quote, squeezes toothpaste from the neck, end of quote. In another story, the author introduces the reader to another couple, Amaka and her husband Ehige. In this story, titled Put the Toilet Seat Down, the author presents a humorous narration of the life of a couple always having a nagging bout after work every day about what one of them did or what they did not do. In this story, Amaka is constantly angry at her husband for peeing on the toilet seat or bathtub, and Ehige is always angry that Amaka hangs her underwears on his bike and treadmill. The program is Book Splash on Splash FM 105.5, and the book on the table is Ruffled Butterflies, a collection of short stories written by Ayotunde Mamudu. In another story, Ayotunde presents to us a story of love and betrayal. Akin and Aisha have been married for 3 years, but they are childless. One morning, Akin is woken up by the alarm on his wife's phone. The alarm is a reminder about her birth control implant. Akin is shocked that he and his wife Aisha never discussed the need for birth control, and all efforts by Aisha to explain this proved abortive. She explains that she wants a successful career and feels that having children will be a hindrance. Aisha is a dance performer and pursuing a second degree in creative arts. In the story titled Without You, Simi witnesses the bold daylight hypocrisy of her late husband's family as they loot their home and attempt to strip her of all she and her husband struggle to have. Giang, her husband's younger brother, even goes to the bank with the mission to change the mandate on the joint account run by Simi and Dereng to include him as the third signatory. A big question to ask as the story climaxes is, might Simi be pregnant? In the story titled Vera, the Venus Flytrap, the narrator tells the story of how his wife trapped him into marriage by feigning pregnancy. In this story, we read of an overbearing mother-in-law and the suspicious wife who continually searches her husband's phones to know if he has been seeing someone else. You're still listening to Book Splash on Splash FM. The book today is Ruffled Butterflies, written by Ayotunde Mamudu. The title story in this work, Ruffled Butterflies, presents a humorous yet expository dialogue between a man and his lover. In the story, the conversation drags on between the two as nothing is really discussed. Each response by each of the characters unearths another issue, yet all issues are inconclusive. So, a marriage proposal is put on hold to iron some things out. Thus, he wants to get married, but she wants to travel abroad for 2 years so as to study for a master's degree. But in the course of the conversation and in a bid to argue out why the proposal must or must not be put on hold, each of the lovers digs up old unresolved disputes. All the stories in this collection speak to the various issues that crop up in our daily relationships and homes. The stories are written by an author whose sense of humor is commendable and whose art is helped by his high penchant for the comical. The stories in this work help us to have a better understanding of the little unspoken idiosyncrasies that define the typical modern-day families. These stories, in varying degrees, powerfully portray the changing dynamics of marriages. Dynamics occasioned by economic realities and dynamics that challenge some cultural stereotypes. From the first story to the last, Ayotunde gives us a peep into the little yet loud differences that either make or mar relationships. For example, we meet Mike, popularly called Starboy in his estate. He is notorious for disturbing his entire neighborhood with his loud music blaring from his car stereo. He is portrayed as a cheating husband who has a high taste for bartenders. In another story, a little matter as a lack of clarity in communication grossly affects a marriage and causes the couple to perpetually argue about everything, including simple text messages. Ultimately, the book is a well-crafted work with a message for everybody, irrespective of their status. It's still Book Splash on Splash FM 105.5 Ibadan. Let's meet my guest, Ayotunde Mamudu, the author of the book Ruffled Butterflies. In this conversation, Ayotunde Mamudu tells me why he wrote the collection. He also recalls his encounter with books and writing and talks about his art. There are 13 short stories in this book. Let's start with why you wrote the book in the first instance.
I think I wrote the book basically out of an instinct. Certain stories have to be told. There's a lot that goes around in our environment, and I just figured out, putting so many of these stories together in a collection would make meaning, and of course people can get one or two lessons or one or two things from it, and of course be entertained while they read. So basically it's just, I think, out of instinct and also a motif to also correct some social ills and try and do what we can as writers to society.
What inspired the work itself? You talked about wanting to, play your part to correct some things in society. You talked about some stories needing to be told. But there has to be a specific story. There has to be a specific, thing, maybe event or something that really provoked you taking pen and writing.
All 13 stories have to do with domestic issues. That's our families, no matter the complexion of our families or the makeup. But we all come from families, basically. And, these stories, they just reflect certain things that go on in our houses or in our families that might seem insignificant. But then if these insignificant things are not paid attention to, they could go ahead to ruin such families. Like the first story, for example, toothpaste. Where do you squeeze your toothpaste tube from? What does it say about you? What impressions do you give? And living together as a couple, husband and wife, these kind of things actually prick their consciences, or they build up certain kinds of issues like anger or annoyance. But if you don't tell your spouse how you feel about this, how would they know? So little things, I just decided that people might overlook, but end up snowballing into major issues are the kind of things I like. I like it when little things matter. Just like, for example, you've typed a wonderful document of like 10 to 15 pages, and then you're looking for a staple pin. And because you just can't find a staple pin, you can't submit that document. So little things matter, and little things matter in our marriages or in the house that we should not take for granted. So basically, I think it's the inspiration. Little things in our household is what just got me thinking.
All right. Okay, so my own reading of your work is you are a very comical writer, even though you are presenting serious matters, matters that have to do with the dynamics of the family, essentially, dynamics of relationship. You still present these serious issues in light-hearted manner. How did you manage to do that?
I guess we can't really run away from who we are. So I guess I'm a fun-loving person, and people don't really like to be taught in a rigid manner, as in sit down here, this is what I have to say, obey me. So if you can have a way around it, ways that appeal to people who would actually see a lighter side to life and just ask themselves the question, but why am I killing myself over this at the end of the day? So I think comedy as well is a strong way, or, it's a beautiful way of passing across, your messages. People laugh about it. You could also laugh at yourself. So I think that's a bit of it.
It's still Book Splash on Splash FM. I'm speaking with Ayotunde Mamudu. He's the author of Ruffled Butterflies, a collection of short stories. Let's come to you. I know you studied English at bachelor's and at master's level.
Yes.
But when or how did you stumble upon writing as a career?
As a career, I will feel this is the first effort. But then I was born into a wonderful family. My father was a professor of English. And so I was surrounded by books. I mean, I used to dread going to his study because from the ceiling to the floor, you had shelves of books and books and books. And I always run away. I didn't like reading, I didn't like writing and all of that. And when a book comes into the house, we're a family of 6 kids. I mean, all my siblings be shouting, I'm first, I'm second, and I'm third. I will not even bother to join the queue of reading those books. And that's how books coming and go out. And I'm like, but then growing up, basically, I now started to see, reason or why I should read. And then it's something that appealed to me because I'm quite creative. I like to draw comics. I like to draw cartoons. And so I started reading and getting into it. And then, I started writing stories as well and keeping. I didn't really intend to publish, many of them. So, I think along the line, something happened,
Somebody convinced you.
Let me take this serious.
Somebody convinced you, or maybe you had an experience or something, that you needed to put all your writings together, right?
Yes, as in when I started to see how the things I wrote in fiction played out in certain families, and I started saying, is I see that reality is now more scary than fiction. So I was like, well, I think I should put this together and take it serious.
And taking it serious includes, a couple of things that we probably most often overlook. Squeezing toothpaste tube, hanging underwears on bikes and treadmills.
Exactly, hanging your shirt on the wardrobe door,
not remembering to send a text message or call. Those are issues that can throw bombs into some homes.
Exactly.
I must commend your sense of humor and your choice of words. You are a very powerful writer. Let me ask you, are your influences in the writing world? Who are your influences, or who are those you grew up reading and maybe they influenced you one way or the other in your writing?
One writer who really stands out for me is Habila.
Wow.
I loved his prison stories, which was later republished as Waiting for an Angel. And he also finished from my university, that's the University of Jos, Department of English, and meeting him in person, and then saying, wow, he can actually take writing from this small enclave to a global level, winning the Commonwealth Prize and so many other prizes. I mean, he was really, influential. I was like, wow. We can actually get serious with this. So Helen Habila stands out for me.
No, nobody else. I was wondering.
There are so many.
Maybe you are not like some of us who were fond of people like Wole Soyinka, Shakespeare, Wordsworth, and the rest of them.
Studying English, we have to read the whole lot.
You have to read
it. Variety, exactly. And sometimes text that you read in school, you have this stereotype of saying, we read this to pass exam. And so you might not really appreciate it. But text you read at your leisure, and although Wole Soyinka is a wonderful writer, and I think he's just phenomenal. Shakespeare as well, starting off a different era, even making us write English or, use English or the old poetics. Go way back. And I think all these things count. Different eras or different writers add flavor or color at a different time, and it shapes our worldview. Because whatever you read shapes your worldview, conscious or unconsciously.
Okay.
So so a lot of artists or writers are really influential, growing up.
Okay, so tell me, I'm looking at, before me, I'm looking at my note about your title story, Ruffled
Yes.
Butterfly itself. I wrote here, a
Yes.
marriage proposal put on hold to iron out some things, and these things never get resolved. At every point of raising an issue, another issue comes up, and the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I am, fascinated by the suddenness of the ending of all the stories in this work. Was it deliberate?
Yes. They're cliffhangers. So after building up certain suspense, you expect a natural denouement. Because most stories we grow up reading have a beginning, a middle, a conflict, resolution of the conflict, and an ending. But then I said, let me put a twist to it. What if these stories don't end? How would the readers digest and think about an ending? They should put themselves in the character's shoes. How would I like this to end? Or are the things I'm taking for granted, can they just end abruptly or all of a sudden? So cliffhangers is a style that many or some readers don't like because they want to see a denouement, conclusion and everything. But then I'll say, well, let me get them involved. So at the end of the day, they too as readers are ruffled. So they're also ruffled butterflies.
So when you read many short stories like this, as a layman reader, you will be very angry with the author, really. Why now? Now there's like a moral contract, or from the writer and the reader. You want to get to that conclusion. But the thing is, most of those stories actually conclude. It's left to the reader to use his intuition to arrive. There are signs, there are signals of a conclusion. But it's not spelled out like the normal or average story. Yes.
So you have to think about it. It's something that the reader has to go home rummaging over and saying, okay, the story actually ended when you look at it from a deeper meaning and not just surface meaning.
How long did it take you to put this collection together?
I'll say probably 4 years.
4 years? Wow.
Because they were not written for being published. I just wrote them and kept. Some days when you're full of activity and I just can't shut down, and I get back home, I'll just scribble something, keep it aside, and then at the end of the day, when it now clicked that we can put a collection together, I now have to start going over all the short stories I've written with a similar theme, a theme of domestic or families or marriages. Then I now started isolating or separating them. But I wrote a lot more than the stories in the collection. But it was when we're serious on getting the project going. So I'd say unconsciously like 4 years, because some stories were written way back. And I had to also now pick them up, read through, chop them up, throw some bit away and get it done.
What's your writing culture like? What's your writing ritual like? For instance, how do you get to write? How do you sit down to write? Is it, for some people, they have to be high on something? You understand what I'm talking about?
Not at all. Not at all. No ritual or nothing. Sometimes you're stuck in traffic. You're sitting at the back of a car, and then thank God for phones. I'll just go to my notepad, and just start writing an idea or typing out an idea. When I get back home, put it on my laptop, just save it somewhere. Or a piece of paper, I just scribble an idea. A line or two can actually develop into a full story. Or, or an incident at home. I'm teasing my wife or she's teasing me and I'm like, that'll make a good story. So I just scribble it down somewhere, and when I have the time, I now sit down and start to type out, punch away at the laptop.
So you must have made a lot of money from writing, right?
Well, that is very relative.
I don't understand what you mean by relative.
That's a relative term. I appreciate the fact that the book has been welcomed by so many people, and God has blessed us through that, and it's been adopted as a reading text in University of Bingham, the English department, University of Jos as well, the English department, and I say I'm really thankful for that, and it's good.
I must confess, it's a very beautiful work of art. Actually, a friend of mine just brought the book to my office and said, Mike, you need to read this book. And
wow,
every page has been a delight, I must confess to you.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Okay, so let me ask, this is the question I usually ask my guests. Is there anything that you've put in this book that on looking at it again, you now think you shouldn't have put in the book?
Not really, no. I think the time we put it together, working with Paresia and Ayodele, the editor, he did a wonderful job. I think as at that time, we would not have done anything better. so I think, no, I don't think I'll take out anything for now. Probably when I mature and I look back, maybe, but for now, I think it's all right.
There's this portrayal of the economic realities, as they affect, the family, particularly challenge cultural stereotypes in this part of the world. One of the stories I just read last night about the husband losing a job and staying at home to take care of the children and the rest of it. This is the reality that Africans are now waking up to. Indeed, you think that we need to write more about these issues to really throw them up and help us to understand the economic realities of the time.
I mean, women are doing well, career-wise. They are very innovative, and they're coming up with wonderful ideas. So the men too also have to realize that we also have to support our wives. And then unfortunately, when there is a tsunami in an industry, where they've laid off so many people, a lot of men now have to sit at home, and you find out that some men are not happy that their wives are working and they're not, So you have to let them know that, look, this is part of life. You're a family now, Tables can turn. And you should be supportive. Even if you're sitting at home taking care of the kids, that's a job. Some people go berserk. It's not an easy skill.
It's not. I agree with you. It's not an easy skill.
So we just have to appreciate certain times and, work together. The man, the woman, we just have to work together. It's something we should do for our kids and for ourselves.
All right.
Because at the end of the day, you're happy with the little effort you're putting in. These little efforts are not little. They're huge. And then we shouldn't be quantifying, I'm doing more than the other, or the man shouldn't say he's doing more than the woman. You're both doing things. It's not something you can grade on a percentile. Whether you have to go out and come back home or whether you have to stay home, you're equally putting in 100%. And you should be appreciated as 100%.
All right. So before I let you go now, Ruffled Butterflies is published 2019. So what's next after Ruffled Butterflies?
We're working.
You don't want to keep us. You don't want to keep us another 4 years, right?
No, we're working. No. I don't think it will take that long.
Okay.
So we're working.
We need to read from people like you, really. And so many other people who write beautiful short stories. I'm hoping that I'll be able to do that one day. Just sit down and write short stories.
You can. I think many of us underestimate what we can do. We underestimate our abilities. Because the truth is, you can only sound like yourself. You shouldn't work hard to imitate someone else. And the writing process, this writer's block thing is actually a huge challenge. Many people don't want to start. They don't want to start because they wonder how they'll be received. But if you don't turn something out, how would you know? So we need to put in the effort and try and get something out, Everybody has stories, regardless of how you tell it, but you should tell it. It could just be the new way of telling stories.
You should tell the stories. Wow.
Yeah, tell the stories.
Ayotunde Mamudu is the author of Ruffled Butterflies, a collection of short stories. Ayo, thank you very much for speaking with me.
Thank you so much.
That was my conversation with Ayotunde Mamudu, author of Ruffled Butterflies, a collection of short stories. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then please join me for another time on Book Splash on Splash FM 105.5, same time next week. I thank you all for listening. And thanks to my sound manager, Victor Daudu, for a job well done. In case you have any comment or query, please send me a text message on 0805 699 8676 or email olatunbosun@splashfm1055.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike Tunbosun. I am Michael Olatunbosun. I urge you to read a book today.